The integrity of the FIFA World Cup came into question this week when football's governing body controversially suspended a one-game ban on an American player. It occurred after US President Donald Trump called Gianni Infantino, asking the FIFA boss to review Folarin Balogun's red card. The American striker was cleared to play in the round of 16 match against Belgium, but the team lost.
On July 2nd, an online betting market suddenly appeared with one very specific question. Would Folarin Balogun play against Belgium? At first, that might sound like a normal betting option, but the timing is what made people stop and look. That same day, Balogun had been shown a straight red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Under the rules, a straight red brings an automatic one-match suspension. So while everything pointed to him missing the Belgium game, a betting market was already taking wagers on whether he would somehow be back on the field. Then, just 3 days later, on July 5th, FIFA's disciplinary committee announced that his suspension had been put on hold, clearing him to play against Belgium. That's where the story starts raising even more questions. During this World Cup, 15 players received red cards. Yet no similar betting market appeared for any of the other 14 players. Even more surprising, none of those other 14 had their suspension delayed or set aside either. That combination of events has drawn serious attention. Those details are now included in an official report submitted to an international sports integrity body, which has formally asked FIFA for a written explanation, and this is only one of 7 separate issues highlighted in that report. The betting controversy that FIFA repeatedly said was not happening during the tournament has now become the subject of much wider scrutiny, and the figures connected to it have caught plenty of attention. Before going any further, one point needs to stay front and center. Nobody has proven that a single World Cup match was fixed. Not one. That's an important fact to remember throughout this discussion. Also, these concerns are not coming from a random person online. They come from the Group of Copenhagen, an independent international network created to detect and prevent manipulation in sports competitions. It operates under the Council of Europe's Macolin Convention, an international treaty focused on fighting match manipulation through cooperation and legal standards across countries. These are the experts that governments turn to when questions about sports integrity come up. They monitored every one of the 104 matches played during this World Cup, watching closely for anything that looked unusual. According to a summary released by the Council of Europe, their operation produced 7 separate notices involving possible match manipulation concerns. That's a serious number, even though those notices are not proof that any match was actually manipulated. The amount of money they were tracking is almost impossible to picture. The group estimates that around $240 billion was wagered during the tournament. That's $240 billion, roughly twice the amount believed to have been bet during the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. In just 4 years, the betting volume is estimated to have doubled. Because of that, 15 matches were placed under closer surveillance, especially during the final round of the group stage, where the pressure and incentives can become much more complicated. On top of that, 12 major incidents were reviewed for potential integrity risks. So what exactly caught their attention? So far, 3 of the 7 reported notices have become public, and each one has sparked discussion. The first involved the red card shown to South Africa's Themba Zwane in the 84th minute of the tournament's opening match against Mexico. You probably remember that game. It featured 3 red cards and turned into a wild, chaotic opener that many people simply blamed on nerves and hard challenges. Now, however, that match also appears as one of the incidents referenced in an integrity report. The second case is the one that has attracted even more attention. The prediction platform Paula Market reportedly handled $4.8 million in bets on a market predicting that Spain would not defeat Cape Verde during their group stage match. Notice the wording. It wasn't about Cape Verde winning, but about Spain failing to win. When the final whistle blew, the match ended in a 0-0 draw, making that betting market an immediate talking point. Spain went on to become the World Cup champions. They allowed just one goal during the entire tournament. Yet one of the biggest surprises came when they were held to a 0-0 draw by Cape Verde. It was an incredible underdog story, and Cape Verde quickly became one of the tournament's biggest fan favorites. But another detail also caught attention. Nearly $5 million was reportedly placed on the prediction that Spain would not win that match, and according to the integrity monitoring process, that betting activity was one of the situations reviewed. The third reported case centered on a 3.5-minute VAR review that erased a goal scored by Spain's Ferran Torres during a 4-0 victory over Saudi Arabia. On the surface, it seemed like a routine video review in a match Spain was already dominating, but today's betting markets are very different from what they used to be. People can now place bets on individual goals, yellow or red cards, corners, and many other moments that have nothing to do with who actually wins the game. Because of that, a goal being ruled out several minutes after it was scored can affect betting markets, even if the final result stays exactly the same. Alain Berset, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, summed up that concern in a public letter released on the day of the World Cup final. He wrote, "Betting has moved away from the result of a match and onto moments a single player can produce without changing the score. That idea changes the conversation completely. Influencing the final score of a match would likely require several people working together. But when betting markets focus on isolated moments, such as whether there's an early card, a corner kick, or even a specific throw-in, the situation can look very different. As Berset put it in 6 direct words, it is an open door to fraud." That statement reflects a concern about potential vulnerabilities, not proof that any match was manipulated. To date, no World Cup match has been proven to be fixed, but according to the Council of Europe's warning, the rapid growth of these betting markets has created new challenges that many believe deserve much closer attention. For the first time ever, the Group of Copenhagen had to keep continuous watch over prediction markets throughout a World Cup. That included platforms like Polymarket and Kalshi, with Kalshi also being an official FIFA partner. In its report, the group did not hide the challenge. It stated, "These markets raise unprecedented issues. They let people bet on an enormous range of events, often anonymously, using payment methods that are difficult to trace." Now, that warning highlights just how quickly this part of the betting world has grown. The problem becomes even more complicated because betting rules are different depending on the country or region. What is allowed in one place may be restricted somewhere else. Monitoring these markets across a global tournament had never been done on this scale before. According to one financial analyst who follows the gaming industry, activity on these prediction markets during the World Cup exceeded nearly every forecast that had been made before the tournament even started. That creates an uncomfortable situation. A fast-growing betting market with regulations that vary from place to place and transactions that can be difficult to follow was expanding rapidly. At the same time, FIFA welcomed part of that industry as an official sponsor. Naturally, that combination has drawn extra attention and raised more questions. Then the timeline became even more surprising. On Tuesday, FIFA's Integrity Task Force released its findings, stating that it had identified no suspicious betting activity and no indications of match manipulation connected to any match in the tournament. It presented a clear conclusion that the competition showed no signs of betting-related integrity issues. Just one day later, on Wednesday, the Group of Copenhagen, which is also a member of that same FIFA Integrity Task Force, released information describing 7 separate integrity notices identified through its own monitoring process. The reports discussed the same tournament and involved organizations connected to the same task force, yet they appeared to present different pictures only 24 hours apart. That contrast has become a major point of discussion, with observers questioning how 2 closely linked reports could leave such different impressions, even though neither report concluded that any World Cup match had been proven to be fixed. The story becomes even more complicated because FIFA is no longer seen only as the organization overseeing the competition. It also has business relationships with companies connected to the betting industry. In April, FIFA announced ADI Predict Street, a prediction market company founded only months before the tournament, as an official World Cup partner. That marked the first time prediction market branding became part of the World Cup environment in this way, drawing plenty of attention. Think about what that means. The organization responsible for protecting the integrity of the matches was also working commercially with a company connected to prediction markets surrounding those same matches. That relationship has become one of the biggest talking points in the wider debate. In his public letter, Alain Berset warned that this World Cup had opened the door even wider to new integrity challenges. He also referred to the Balogun situation with a line that stood out: "When the rules bend under pressure, every result is open to doubt." That statement reflects concerns about public confidence rather than proof of wrongdoing. The Balogun decision also brought additional scrutiny. His suspension was lifted after reports that Donald Trump had spoken with FIFA President Gianni Infantino. While FIFA did not publicly provide a detailed explanation of its reasoning under the disciplinary article it relied on, separately, 72 members of the European Parliament wrote to European football associations requesting an investigation into Infantino's involvement, citing concerns about possible political neutrality issues. Another detail that drew attention was that a betting market related to Balogun's availability had reportedly opened 3 days before FIFA officially announced its decision. It's important to keep one fact in mind. Nobody has proven that any World Cup match was fixed, and none of these events by themselves establish that manipulation occurred. However, critics argue that when these developments are viewed together, they can raise questions about public confidence in the process. At the same time, there is another side to the story that also deserves attention. A notice issued by an integrity monitoring group is not the same as proof of misconduct. The group of Copenhagen uses a 4-level alert system: green for normal activity, yellow for slightly increased concern, orange for increased concern, and red for the highest level of alert. Those categories are designed to guide further review, not to determine guilt. All 7 of the reported notices were classified as yellow, which is the second lowest level on the group of Copenhagen's alert system. A yellow notice is not an accusation, and it is not evidence that manipulation happened. It simply signals that something unusual deserves a closer look. These notices can be triggered by sudden and unexplained changes in betting odds, rumors spreading across social media, or information received from a source. In other words, they are prompts for further review, not findings of wrongdoing. Gambling expert Christian Kolb, who has previously worked with the group of Copenhagen, offered a strong explanation for why unusual betting activity can have completely innocent causes. As he put it, odd-looking behavior can come from ordinary market mechanics. There are many explanations that are not manipulations. That point is important because unusual numbers alone do not tell the whole story. Kalb gave a simple example. Imagine a smaller bookmaker facing huge betting on a heavy favorite. If that favorite wins, the bookmaker could face major losses. To reduce that risk, the bookmaker might place money on the opposite outcome through another prediction market as a form of protection or hedge. Suddenly, millions of dollars could appear on a market like Spain does not beat Cape Verde, even though there is no conspiracy behind those bets. It can simply be part of normal risk management. He also pointed to the massive scale of the betting market. With an estimated $240 billion wagered during the tournament and billions tied to individual matches, unusual betting patterns are almost unavoidable in a market that large, unexpected movements are bound to happen from time to time. So no, none of this proves that the World Cup was fixed, and it would be misleading to claim otherwise, but that does not mean the discussion ends there. The bigger issue is what these events mean for public confidence, transparency, and the challenges FIFA now faces as betting markets continue to grow at an incredible pace. A tournament's reputation is not damaged only by proven corruption. Sometimes it's the unanswered questions that leave the biggest mark, and this World Cup has generated plenty of them. People continue to debate the 3.5-minute VAR review, the disallowed Egyptian goal against Argentina that led to formal complaints, the decision to appoint an all-Argentine officiating crew for France's quarterfinal, and the different disciplinary outcomes involving Folarin Balogun and England's Jarell Quansah after similar-looking challenges. Whether those decisions were justified or not, they have all become part of the wider conversation. There are also numbers that many people have pointed to. 15 players received red cards during the tournament. One suspension was later put on hold. One betting market reportedly appeared on that same situation. Those facts have attracted attention, but it's important to stay precise about what they do and do not show. To be absolutely clear, there is no public evidence linking any referee, VAR official, or match official at this tournament to betting activity, and there is no basis for accusing anyone of misconduct. Those are serious claims that require real evidence, and none has been presented publicly. That distinction matters. The challenge is something different. Once questions about betting integrity enter the public conversation, people often begin looking back at every controversial decision through a completely different lens. Close calls that once seemed like ordinary football debates can suddenly become subjects of much deeper suspicion. That shift in public perception can affect trust, even without proof that anything improper happened. FIFA also faces a difficult communication challenge because of its commercial relationship with a prediction market company. When an organization has financial ties to part of the betting industry while also stating that it found no suspicious betting activity, some observers may question that message. Those questions became even louder after a member of FIFA's own integrity task force, the Group of Copenhagen, released information about 7 integrity notices one day after FIFA reported finding none. Even then, the Council of Europe has not claimed that a betting scandal has been proven. Instead, it is asking for explanations and greater transparency around the issues that were identified. Alain Berset's proposal is not about creating headlines, it's about finding solutions. He has called for an immediate working dialogue to build a stronger international integrity framework before the 2030 World Cup in Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. His idea follows the same type of cooperation Europe used to introduce major agreements on stadium safety after the Heysel disaster and on anti-doping measures. The focus is on strengthening safeguards before future tournaments, not reacting after problems appear. Meanwhile, FIFA appears to be in a strong political position. More than 200 member associations have backed Gianni Infantino for a 4th term ahead of the March election, showing where much of the current support stands. That context is also part of the wider discussion surrounding these integrity questions. One fact should stay clear from beginning to end. Nobody has proven that a single World Cup match was fixed. That remains true. At the same time, critics argue that FIFA spent much of the tournament insisting that concerns about officiating were misplaced, that its officials could not be influenced, and that the betting landscape showed no suspicious activity. Then another picture emerged. An independent monitoring body operating under the Council of Europe's anti-match manipulation framework reported 7 integrity notices, formally requested a written explanation from FIFA regarding the Balogun decision, and highlighted that the only red card incident linked to its own reported betting market was also the only one where the suspension was later put on hold. Those developments have fueled debate, even though they do not establish that manipulation occurred. The biggest challenge for FIFA may not be proving that something happened. It may be convincing the public that every major question has been answered clearly and transparently. In sports, trust can be just as important as the final score. And when unanswered questions continue to grow, they naturally keep the conversation alive long after the tournament ends. ends. Now, I want to hear what you think. Do you see this as a series of coincidences and normal betting activity, or do you think these questions deserve much clearer answers? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll be covering FIFA's response to the Balogun request as soon as it's released, so stay tuned if you don't want to miss the latest updates. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who follows football. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.